I have a secret gay relationship with my best friend's father, something that happened unintentionally, but is an unforgettable relationship. I have a secret gay relationship with my best friend's father, something that happened without looking for it, but is an unforgettable relationship. Stay until the end to hear this story. So make yourself comfortable, and we invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any video. The first time I saw him was during one of those family dinners that, at first, seem eternal and filled with trivial conversations. My best friend, Laura, had invited me to spend the weekend at her house. "It's just a meal with my parents," she said, downplaying it, and I accepted without imagining what that day would mean for my life. When we arrived at her house, the air smelled of freshly cut grass and damp wood. The house was cozy, surrounded by trees that gave a sense of isolation, as if it existed in a world apart. It was then that he appeared. Eduardo, Laura's father. Tall, with slightly gray hair and a presence that filled the room. He offered me a warm smile as he approached to shake my hand. "You must be Leo," he said with a deep but kind voice. I felt a small shiver hearing my name come from his lips. "Are you enjoying the video so far? If so, leave us a like and subscribe. Let's continue." During dinner, I couldn't help but observe him out of the corner of my eye. Eduardo was attentive, made clever jokes, and had a way of speaking that was hypnotic. Every time our eyes met, it felt like an electric current passed between us. I wondered if I was imagining things, if the connection I felt was just a trick of my mind. But when he offered to pour me more wine, his fingers brushed mine in a way that couldn't be accidental. My heart began to race, and I quickly looked away, hoping no one else had noticed the blush on my cheeks. After dinner, Laura insisted on showing me the backyard. While we walked, Eduardo stayed in the living room, but I could feel his gaze following me. I didn't say anything, but his presence was undeniable. That night in the guest room, I could hardly sleep. My thoughts revolved around him, those brief moments that seemed charged with hidden meaning. The next day, while Laura was in the kitchen with her mother, I decided to step out into the garden to get some fresh air. Eduardo was there, pruning some plants in a worn t-shirt that revealed his musculature. Upon seeing me, he put down the shears and greeted me with a smile. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, and his voice made me feel a mix of nervousness and excitement. "Yes, thanks," I replied, even though I knew it wasn't true. He stepped closer, and for a moment, I thought he could hear the sound of my racing heartbeat. "It's rare for Laura to bring friends home," he said, almost as a casual remark, but there was something in his tone that made me think he wanted to say more. "You're special to her. Hey, since you're watching, subscribe. It would help me a lot. Let's continue." I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded. But before I could say anything else, Laura came running into the garden, breaking the tension between us. Eduardo returned to his plants as if nothing had happened, but I knew something had changed. Weeks passed, and every time I visited Laura, it seemed Eduardo and I found ways to cross paths. One day, when Laura had to leave the house for an errand, I found myself alone with him. He was in his study, going through some papers. Upon seeing me enter, he smiled and invited me to sit down. "Do you like art?" he asked, pointing to a painting on the wall. The truth was, I didn't know much about it, but I made an effort to seem interested. We talked for hours, and every time our eyes met, I felt the air grow thicker. At one point, he stood up to grab something from a shelf, and as he turned, our hands brushed. This time, I didn't pull mine away. We stood still, looking at each other, and in that moment, I knew something inevitable was about to happen. After that kiss, there was a moment of silence where only our breaths were audible. Eduardo slowly pulled away and looked toward the door as if expecting someone to walk in at any moment. "I shouldn't be doing this," he murmured, although his voice lacked conviction. "Why not?" I replied, feeling a mix of bravery and fear. "We're not hurting anyone." Eduardo shook his head but didn't say anything else. In that moment, I saw him as someone more than just my best friend's father. He was a man who, like me, was fighting against feelings he couldn't control. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. We always sought excuses to spend time together without Laura suspecting. One day, I offered to help Eduardo fix some things in the garage. There, away from prying eyes, our conversations became more intimate. Eduardo began to tell me about his youth, about dreams he had set aside for the responsibilities of life. Sometimes I feel like I've lived for others, never for myself, he confessed while holding an old tool in his hands. Don't forget to subscribe and like for more content like this. Let's continue. It was in those moments that I understood that what we had was not just a forbidden adventure. It was an escape for both of us, a refuge where we could be who we really were, even if only for stolen moments. But I also knew that this connection came with a price. One night, after a particularly tense dinner where Laura mentioned someone who was interested in me, Eduardo sought me out on the terrace. "I can't stand this," he said quietly, his eyes filled with anguish. "Every time I think of you with someone else, I feel like I'm losing something I'll never get back." It was then I realized that although what we had was intense and real, we were playing with fire on a treacherous ground. The first kiss was timid, almost as if we both feared what it meant. But then the intensity grew, and everything around us ceased to matter. When we pulled away, his expression was a mix of excitement and concern. "This is complicated," he murmured, and I nodded, fully aware of what he meant. Our relationship became a carefully guarded secret. Each encounter was a mix of passion and nervousness, always with the fear of being discovered. Eduardo would send me short, cryptic messages to avoid suspicion, and I eagerly awaited every opportunity to see him. One day, while we were in the kitchen, Laura suddenly walked in and almost caught us too close. Eduardo quickly stepped away, but not before she noticed something strange. "Is everything okay here?" she asked, looking at us curiously. We both nodded, trying to appear as natural as possible, but I knew our gazes betrayed us. As our relationship progressed, the weight of our secret began to feel more evident. Eduardo was torn between his role as a father and his desire for me, and I struggled with the guilt of betraying my best friend's trust. I knew that sooner or later something would have to change. The decisive moment came on a rainy afternoon. We were in his car, parked in a secluded spot. Eduardo looked at me with a mixture of love and sadness. "We can't keep doing this," he finally said. His words hit me like a blow, but deep down I knew he was right. I told him I understood, even though every fiber of my being wanted to scream for him not to do it. We parted with a kiss, knowing it would be the last. When I returned home that night, I felt empty, as if a part of me had stayed with him. Over time, our relationship reverted to that of friends and the father of a friend. We never spoke of what had happened between us, but every time I saw him, our gazes said it all. Despite everything, I do not regret what we lived. Eduardo taught me what it means to love intensely, even when circumstances are against us. Though our love was brief and filled with obstacles, it will always hold a special place in my heart. Sometimes the most complicated stories are the ones that mark us the most, and this was undoubtedly one of them. If you liked the video and this content brought you value, leave us a like and share it with your friends so you don't miss it.